At the beginning of it all came a journal and a small vase. They were pure and left untouched, as if they were a sacred object expecting for someone to give meaning to their banal and material life. The vase was as white as snow, and the journal's pages were made of pine trees. They were objects living in a world of light and darkness. A field blessed by families of flowers, a dandelion looking to fulfill a wish, the wind picking up strongly as it usually does in late October. Naturally, a seed was born, created, wished for by what was obviously meant to end by some point. Since the beginning, the end was already accounted for. All the flowers that bloom have to die at some point. Then came the girl. She dreamt only of the sunshine. She thought only of beautiful things and feelings. She felt and she dreamt. She floated through the air as a thin feather falling from the sky would. This girl was naive, clueless. That's what made her happy. She was amazed by what the world had to offer. Nevertheless, she was definitely blinded by privilege. What other girl wasn't? She barely knew anything at all, or at least she thought. Her eyes had seen more than what she accounted for. Sorrow and pain were brewing in the hidden corners of her soul, awaiting for the moment to grab her by the wrist and pull her out of the optimistic circle of protection. She was soon to be bathed by reality. She always felt protected by her vase. She whispered her every thought into it, her dreams and concerns, deepest sorrows and darkest demons. She somehow felt she could trust it. Maybe it was the earthen elements from the ceramic that felt like she was whispering into Mother Earth's ear. She roamed through the earth looking for answers to the overwhelming feeling of emotion she felt at all times. She seeked in the light between the trees and in the roots that held them. As she discovered more about herself, about her past and her future, the less happy she became about it. She became desperate, searching in the right places at the wrong time and wrong places at the right time. Her mind became blurry. She started living the present as a dreamy and numb adventure. Her mind flew around gray clouds and green scenery. She became fond of her constant state of anticipation and awe. As distracted as she was, after seasons passed, she found herself distracted on one's own existence. Keeping her head high in the clouds prohibited that she kept her feet standing strongly in the ground. And then she was angry, and she hated what she used to love. Her heart was yet to meet the emotions that can make it break easily. As her passions grew stronger, her self-loathing did too. It was as if she had been swallowed by the wishes she had longed for so long. She had disappeared into the darkest void of self-sorrow. She was mourning for herself at her brightest hour. Little did she know she had to hate herself to truly love. She had to be disappointed by life to appreciate it at its fullest. And so she floated, as the light feather she always was. But now she was free falling, and she could no longer see what was around her, what could have saved her. She spiraled through the discovery of blooming as a flower in life, as a feather with no control. And then, that girl was no longer a girl. She had grown into a young and beautiful woman. As she grew, life tore her apart. Her petals were picked on by whatever made her believe that her thorns weren't enough to protect her skin and heart. She no longer dreamt of the sunshine. She was drawn to the shining moon and was fueled by her curiosity to meet the dark side of it. She maybe thought it would be as dark as she was, as dark as she had grown to be. The reason for her interest in sadness was still unknown to her. She thought maybe the answers were hidden by herself in her small vase of secrets. Looking strong and firmly into her eyes, she knew she had created a monster, thinking she was a monster throughout it all. She wasn't even close to her own destruction, to what she was at that moment. She dreamt with tearing her skin apart, petal by petal, thorn by thorn, until she was always left with nothing. She thought she would be less of an inconvenience that way, even though she didn't even know who she was a nuisance to. She later discovered it was she who was bothering herself. It's funny how she could love life so much and hate herself an equal amount. She had the purest respect for nature and left none for herself. Nevertheless, she was still a flower, a sunflower. She was born from fertile land, a field of flowers of different colors. She grew radiant over time, with the help of the sun and water that she had the opportunity to take. One morning, after a long night of closed petals, the sunflower was no longer in her field, but in the neighboring plantation. The wind took her by the leaves and carried her away into the unknown. At dawn, the sunflower, waiting for its only constant, the sun, did not find it. The innocent and naive flower knew she had to find him to survive. Every day, the sunflower tried to listen to the intuition of her sensitive petals that told her not to give up. And as strong as her stem was after all her sorrow, the flower managed to find her way back into the sun, and again she blossomed, in a new place, unknown but seemingly familiar. The sunflower understood that the wind was only trying to make her stronger, less naive, more intuitive. She understood that she had to experience pain to feel joy, fear to earn trust. And that was her problem. She thought she was born from a dandelion seed. She thought her purpose was to fulfill a wish that was not hers. She never thought of the possibility that maybe she was different. She had to go through all that anger and pain to realize she was a sunflower, to realize she wasn't necessarily a flower. She could be whatever she wanted. An ecstasy ran through her veins, clarity in her system. So then she screamed and laughed and ran, and she lost control. The way you can lose control in a good way. The way that accelerates you in a way so liberating that goosebumps cannot even describe. She lost control and broke it all so she could break herself one more time, to heal once and for all. She broke the vase to release all the secrets that were never meant to be hidden, but exposed and embraced into the shining sun and humid soil. She broke, and she knew it wouldn't be the last time, nor was it the first, but this time she forgave herself for doing it. She let off from her numbness and permitted herself to be immersed in full human and flowery emotion. Good or bad, she decided to let herself feel whatever came her way. And yes, it is true that time heals everything. What yesterday hurt us like the deepest wounds, today is that scar that fades a little bit more each day. Sometimes the only thing to do is wait. Wait for the tears to dry, for the blood to stop spilling, and for the screams to turn into whispers. We cannot fix what was broken, and we can't stop living for the hurting to stop. What we can do is love it and acknowledge it for what it is, what shapes us to be special and unique, human and vulnerable. She was special. She was unique. She was human. She was vulnerable. She was the seed that turned into that flower that never stopped blooming.